Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Charles, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, and entertainment. And we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And boy, oh boy, we have an episode for you guys here today that we definitely want you guys to stick around for. So make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, about a year ago, or more than a year ago, ESPN was absolutely mired in drama. It was just one thing after the next. There was a Kwame Brown story with Stephen A. Smith. That one picked up a lot of headlines. And Kwame Brown was going back and forth with Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith made a response to that. Then we had the drama of, surrounding ESPN First Take when we found out that Max Kellerman was no longer going to be part of that show. And then we found out that Stephen A. Smith didn't want him to be a part of the show. Then that created a lot of drama. And then an audio surfaced of Rachel Nichols during the Orlando bubble when the teams were competing for the NBA championship, where she was talking about Maria Taylor, and that created another media storm. And then subsequently that's when that story started to broke. And at the time, it seems like the company was trying to make a diversity hire, and Rachel Nichols felt like she was being made the scapegoat for that decision. And then shortly after that, of course, that audio came out, and then in August of 2021, she was let go from the network. But now, yesterday, she resurfaced on All the Smoke podcast, where she announced that she would be a member now of Showtime. I believe it is Sports Division. And she was basically on there essentially to clear the air and give her side of the story of what transpired at ESPN and how all of that kind of played out. So for those of you who missed what she had to say about how she ended up leaving the network, take a listen to what she has to say here, and then we're going to come back and unpack this thing. So take a listen to that.
Let's get straight to it to tell us about your departure from ESPN.
Yeah, look, it all started really good a few years ago. We can go back to 2019, 3 years ago. ESPN gave me a new contract. I'd already been there with the jump. Mm-hmm. And in the contract was that I was going to host the NBA Finals. And you guys have known me for years.
Yes.
I have covered the sport for decades. The idea that I was going to host the NBA Finals, that
everything
was
to you.
My dream job.
That was going to be your first time doing it?
That was going to be my first time doing it. It meant the world. Mm-hmm. I called every executive involved personally to thank them. I was so excited. They put everything in writing in the contract. They put out a big press release about it. One of the things I asked for in the contract was that any pregame show I did would be a continuation of our daily show, The Jump, because it was something we started together. I was so proud of. And I just also didn't want any confusion. There's a lot of politics at ESPN, and I knew that the NBA Countdown job was still open, and I didn't want anyone to think that I was trying to horn in on NBA Countdown. I wasn't. I wanted to stay with The Jump. It was important to me. So I thought making that distinction would really help things. And Maria Taylor ended up getting the NBA Countdown job. I really wanted to make an effort to welcome her, to open my door to her. I sent her flowers when she got the job because I was really, really happy for her.
Mm-hmm. What changed on how you felt in the workplace?
Well, things got complicated later that season. Y'all know it was 2020, right?
Yeah,
so
the world was
we had a pandemic.
Crazy spot.
There was the tragic murder of your friend, George Floyd. A lot of difficult conversations with this country looking itself in the face, seeing what had to change and be different. And the New York Times did an expose in July of 2020 on racism at ESPN and the lack of opportunities for people of color. And the executives at ESPN said what I think people would expect, all the right things about we'd like to give more people more opportunities. We're continuing to grow, all of those things. And around the same time, I got a phone call asking me, would I step aside for Maria to host the NBA Finals and have me go back to being a sideline reporter? And they stressed it was my choice. They weren't telling me to do this because it was in my contract, but they were putting a lot of pressure on me. I was being told, well, you're not a team player, which any woman in business knows is code, right? Women are supposed to be kumbaya and team players and helpful, and men are aggressive sharks and all of that. And I just felt like, hey, I worked so long, decades for this job. I have done everything that was asked. We put on some great shows leading up to the playoffs, and I wanted a chance to do it.
So you heard what she had to say there. And everything that she said now, I believe, presents a new set of questions. From my understanding, it was written in her contract that she would be the one to cover the NBA Finals. Then subsequently, ESPN came to her and asked her if she could then be a sideline reporter so Maria Taylor can be promoted to her position to host the NBA Finals. And if that is in fact what actually took place, then I can absolutely understand her frustration with the network. I think anyone in that position would be very, very disgruntled, right? Especially if it's in writing. It's not like as if you had a handshake agreement with someone and then they just, went bad on the agreement. No, this was actually put in writing. And then shortly after they come to you and they tell you, no, we would like for you to do something else, but you don't have to. We're just saying. I think that's totally messed up there. Now, here's the irony of this entire situation. After Maria Taylor hosted the NBA Finals, her contract had expired at the end of Game 6. And after that, she was let go of by ESPN because I believe during their renegotiations, and we covered this then, it seems as if Maria Taylor wanted a salary that was on par with Stephen A. Smith. And the figure that ESPN was offering her, she wasn't willing to accept it, and therefore they ended up parting ways, which then brings us back to this point, which is, what was the purpose of all of that then? You lose Rachel Nichols, you lose Maria Taylor. What was the point of all of that? But essentially, that's what happened. And to me, after hearing Rachel Nichols' side of this story, because we didn't really get a chance to hear her speak. I think all we heard was when she came on the show and she addressed the situation. And I think early in that interview on All the Smoke podcast, she alluded to that when I think she pointed to the fact that Matt Barnes went out of his way to be a part of that show. I think it was a very early morning show, like a 6 a.m. show or something like that, right? So that's really all we heard from her about that situation. And to me, I think this is just another example of what always happens at ESPN, and she's not the first one. It's not like as if she's the first one that has this experience. If you go back and comb through the internet and look at some of the personalities that used to work at ESPN, all of them have their stories. Even Bill Simmons, right? Even Bill Simmons, he had his issues there at ESPN, and he just decided, man, to hell with that. I'm going to go on and do my own thing. And I think he created, The Ringer. And I think he sold The Ringer for $100 million or something like that. He made more money than all of the guys that he left behind. So there's always something like this happening at ESPN. There's always one story. Now, even Skip Bayless, there wasn't a scandal, but, they just weren't willing to offer Skip Bayless the money that he was looking for. And ultimately, he went on to Fox, and, Fox offered him a salary, and ESPN basically refused to match it. And that's according to Stephen A. Smith when he went on, I believe it's the I Am Athlete, podcast. But my final thoughts on this are just, I'm happy that she's finally, saying her piece and giving her side of the story, and we'll see what comes from it. But the question to you guys is, what do you think about everything that Rachel Nichols had to say here? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section, and we definitely catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.